Okay, Kat, so we're going to look at the backswing today, and we're going to talk about how a lot of players, when making a one-piece takeaway, they get themselves into a bit of trouble. Now, obviously, the one-piece takeaway can work for a lot of players, ensuring that essentially the chest, the arms, and the club head are all moving together. But there is a key component of the one-piece takeaway which causes a lot of players to get themselves in a position where they essentially over-rotate their whole body and they don't actually use their wrists correctly, correct?
Yeah, correct, yeah. So you see a lot of players, as they start bringing the club away, hips and shoulders effectively dictate where this club goes.
Yeah.
And everything starts to work too much on the inside. You can see how low the club head is still to the ground, when in an ideal world, we'd want it to come up a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So start using the wrist hinge in conjunction with hips and shoulder rotation.
Yeah, and I think that's a very misunderstood part of the golf swing, right? Is that it's not just the arms pulling around your body, there is a lifting motion. And to illustrate that, if you set up to the ground with no ball for me, and all I want you to do is lift your arms up above your head for me, perfect, and then you turn and rotate your body, we can see that starts to look like a golf swing. But if you do that once more from address, and we don't lift your arms and you just turn everything together, we can see there's only a certain length of backswing you can achieve. You might see a lot of players at your home club look like this before you're going to start overcompensating with a lot of lifting and shifting and all sorts of stuff. So what we've got here is got a great training aid to really illustrate the fact that in the backswing here, the precision impact wrist mechanism is just going to allow us to get some feedback, and we can hear that clicking noise, and it's really just to give you some awareness of how the wrists need to move in the backswing.
So the clicking noise that you can obviously hear is the movement of the wrist, and I always kind of tell a lot of my students that you want to try and see the golf club effectively move up on that kind of 45-degree angle there. So a lot of players again either go too vertical, you hear there's literally one click.
We can see some cupping there.
And a lot of cupping, and an open, probably lead to an open face. So I often try to say, get the club out in front of your chest there, and then just lift it up on that 45-degree angle. You can hear 4 to 5 clicks. If I kind of just turn myself down towards a posture position, and that pretty much puts me into my takeaway as well.
And we can see that if you were to go back to the ball for me and recreate that from your setup position, we're going to see Andy's club as he swings back. It's certainly not going to go on the inside at all. We're going to see that his hands and the head are very much so in the same line here, with the grip end pointing towards the target, very much like what you will see with the best players in the world. Now, as Andy begins to continue to turn and rotate to the top, we're going to see that this left wrist condition is going to be quite flat. And the reason that happens is in conjunction with this training aid, essentially what happens is the back wrist moves in this function where you'll see it create almost a cupping like this, and then the front wrist moves on more of a diagonal. So the combination of those will set the wrist correctly. So now as we set up from the face-on angle, what we're going to see a difference between the players who, with their interpretation of a one-piece takeaway, and we don't hear any of the clicking, we're going to see that the club head's going to drag very low and around the body, right? And if we look at its position by about this section of the swing, you'll see it's only a short distance away from the ground. But what we would want to hear is a bit of clicking as we go back, and we can see how quickly that head is going to lift up off the ground. Now, from the down the line view, you'll see we get straight back into this PGA professional position, right? As you then continue to pivot, we're in a great spot to then swing down from there. So, look, in terms of a one-piece takeaway, very important, beneficial for a lot of players to ensure they are moving their torso, the hands and the body all together there, Andy, but really ensuring that the wrists work in the correct manner is so important.
I think it's just understanding that there's effectively 3 elements to the takeaway. You've got upper body rotation, lower body rotation, and then the arms are also kind of moving on their path as well, aren't they? The arms are, like you say, moving upwards, the wrists are effectively kind of moving upwards in comparison to what's going on in this takeaway. So it's just combining not forgetting that obviously we want to rotate, but it's combining what the hands need to do as well. And then again, this, like I say, the feedback from this is superb, because it just puts you into position, 4 or 5 clicks, you know you're in the right place. And then if you don't hear it, like you said, the club has probably gone too far around.
Gone way too far down and around. And from there, even though you might feel like that's going to help you come back from the inside, we can see a perfect spitting image of what we'll see all day, every day of some overcompensations
Yeah.
to try and get it back on.
Absolutely, yeah. You get to a point where you know this is not a long enough swing, so your body compensates and the arms lift up. And the effect, I always can say, they basically work up your back, and your back's leaning forward effectively, and it just follows the path of your spine angle in your back, and then you end up in a slightly over the top position.
Why don't you show us a shot, a small shot,
Yep.
because we'll probably lose the ball in the bush, of you not allowing your wrists to hinge. Now, it's going to be very hard to do this at speed
Not
without
allowing
getting
my wrist.
any without that device clicking at all. But essentially what I want to see is hardly any clicks, and the club and the arm's going to finish very low around your body as you swing back, Andy. And I'll just put a club here just to make sure you don't try and cheat the system.
As someone that is very hingy, this is very difficult for me.
So essentially he's going to feel that the golf club is dragging long and low along the ground. Off you go. Great. And we can see how the ball wanted to go straight to the right.
One Pro V gone.
Yeah. Now, same speed, I want you to do pretty much the opposite. We're going to get a lot of upward hinge early on. And notice the compression that the golf ball comes off when he hits this. Good. So we can see that the golf club is going to have a lot more downwardness to the strike. Now, obviously, in between that is where we want to be.
Yeah.
But with an iron, seeing as the ball is on the ground, we want to get that ball first, ground second contact, and allowing those wrists to hinge up and the arms to move in an upward manner is only going to encourage that. So now let's find the middle ground, mate. Hit a nice little perler out there for us. Beautiful. So you can see in between the two previous examples, with the one piece takeaway, you can certainly do it to encourage the upper body, the lower body, and the arms to move away in one piece, but we certainly also want to see some wrist hinge to that motion.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be introducing you to a device which was actually introduced to me by Pete Cowan. When I was filming with him back in November, he said to me, I've got this device, you need to check it out. So this is called Precision Impact. The details to this are in the description below. It's weird actually, because it's basically, it looks like a robotic arm. If I was reviewing it in terms of how it looks, I would say it could look nicer. A bit of colour, you know what I mean? You know, from a sales and marketing perspective, it could look a little bit better. But what it does, it's very, very simple. Strap it on your trail arm, so it'll work for lefties and righties. Strap it onto your trail arm, and then it's going to encourage you to get the correct wrist hinge, okay? And what it also does is it keeps your wrist in that position for impact. So how many of you golfers now out there have got, let's say, a few issues? So maybe one of your issues, I'm going to take it off for a second. One of your issues is that you maybe whip the club inside. So you see my angles of my wrists go that way behind my body. Or for those golfers that maybe release the golf club too soon and we don't get any shaft lean, you get additional loft on the face and more higher ball flight and a loss of distance.